Welcome to HEA's HypnoConnect, the podcast by the Hypnosis Education Association. Real conversations, expert insights, and meaningful connection. Brought to you by HypnoBiz in a Box, the ultimate all-in-one hypnosis business platform. Let's get to it.
Hello. All right. Let me let these people in the waiting room. Awesome. It's wonderful to see all your beautiful faces. Really excited for what Lani's got to share with us. Just a little bit more of an intro, if that's okay. I could do that, right? Because Lani is a speaker. She has been, I don't even know how many stages you've been on since we met. But this is what she loves to do. So I'm excited to hear what she has to say. And I also know she's a gifted hypnotherapist because her testimonials are outrageous. So it's fun. All right. And so the way that this goes, my friends, as you know, Lani's going to share with us what she wants to share. We're going to keep it in classroom style, just like this. So stay on camera because it's much nicer to talk to people who are actually paying attention. And then we'll open up for Q&A. All righty. Hello, Wendy. Good to see you. Welcome. All right, Lani. So let me just make sure you're pinned. And I think we're good to go.
Okay, well, hello everybody from all over. I'm so excited to share with everybody and connect with everybody. As you heard from the intro, my name is Lani Gonzales and I am a recovering attorney. And I am so glad to be sharing this profession with everyone today. So, the mindset of where we're going to go today is as a hypnotherapist, this is our career, this is our profession. But I want us to look at it a little bit differently. And we're going to look at it as our calling. And calling has a deeper significance than something beyond a career. So when we are called, part of that includes all of us showing up. So, very clearly, when we meet with our clients, we bring our mind, right? We're listening, we're critical thinking. Maybe we have some scripts, maybe we don't. Maybe we have things memorized. Maybe you've done it so many times. Those steps and those scripts are kind of in your head. So, you're showing up with your mind. You are showing up with your heart. Most all of us are, right? This is a helping profession. We don't do this for glory. We don't necessarily do this for money. We do this because our heart has been called to serve. But now, the next question that I want you to consider is, are you showing up with your spirit and are you showing up with your soul? If this gets a little too preachy, you can do a little fake cough on the side and I'll get it and I'll tone it back so this doesn't get too weird. Just let me know. I'm watching. But that is the direction that we are going to take today. So, from that point of view, there's three things that I would really love for you guys to leave with. So, the first thing we're going to talk about is our senses of awareness. So, we have our obvious physical senses, right? So, there's our ability to see, to smell, to taste, to touch. But we have other senses beyond that. The most easy example of this is, let's say you meet somebody new and your stomach turns and you just go, oh, I don't have a good feeling about this. Or let's say you meet somebody new and you feel excited, you feel light, you feel free. There's something that's communicating with you that you can't quite articulate just yet. You don't have facts, your mind isn't picking it up, but something is communicating information. And we are taught to disregard this information. But what I'm inviting you today to do is step one, can we consider this information and bring it into our practice? This may be called by some as woo woo, but I'm going to try to bring in as much science of it as I can. So, I'm going to share a couple of things that I do from the beginning. So let's say I get on my calendar, my HypnoBiz calendar, it says that somebody has signed up for a call. And in my little see, I'm like pitching in directly here, forgive me. In my little HypnoBiz calendar, there's like little facts about, and I didn't set this up, Melanie set this up. There's little facts about what they're worried about, what their issues are. They can click the boxes, and I see all of that. And I don't just take all of that and just hop onto my call. I tap in. What information can I gather before I even contact this person? Is this person even the right client for me? There are some people, my stomach turns. I had a client call just right before this, and I'm like, this person is probably not going to be my client. They claim they have a problem that I can fix, but I know my stomach goes, give them time, help them and guide them in a different way. But this client's probably not yours. And you better believe when I answered that phone, it was 100% correct. So now let's say we step forward and they are my client. I know we all have our different ways to prepare, but doing something very similar and tapping into those senses of awareness. What do I see? What do I smell? What do I feel? What information is coming in to me about this particular person? We talk about building rapport, and this is something I used to do in my practice. Is I would take all of that information that I got even before my client told me, even before they walk into the door, and I write it down and I fold it because I'm a nerd and I like origami. So I fold it into this nice little letter and I kind of leave it on my desk. And when my client comes in and they tell me what's wrong, they tell me what's going on. They're talking about what really, really hurts because we know that when we talk to our clients, they tell us a problem. Is that actually the problem, or is there something deeper? So once my client tells me, hey, this is my problem, I hand them the note. And that note says mom. That note says dad. That note says pain in my chest. That note says I can't open, I can't commit, I'm afraid, I'm lost, I'm scared. And that's a fun little way. I call it my cheap trick. It's one of my cheap tricks to build rapport and trust and expertise. Because one of the things we do for our clients, for them to trust us, is we know their problem better than they know their problem. So by tapping into those senses and giving them this letter, that's a way that says, I see you. I know that other people may not see you, but I do see you. And there's that implied, I see you and I know how to help you. And that makes a session so much easier if you can start it that way. I'm not suggesting that everyone starts that way, but what I'm suggesting are there are different ways to start your relationship with your client beyond what you were told in a clinical and traditional setting. There's another thing. If you follow me, you might have seen a couple of these videos. If you're not, no worries. If you want videos, can happily show you some of those, because what I started doing is, for some people, if they voluntarily let me video, I use it so people can know what hypnotherapy truly is. And I do something called psychometry. And I got to break this down a little bit so people understand I'm not breaking any laws. Psychometry is the ability to receive information through touch. I'm not a doctor or a nurse, so I'm not allowed to touch people. So what I do is I call it my awkward handshake. And I just basically hold on to someone and I kind of shake their hand and I tell them, I'm going to give you an awkward handshake. Is this okay? Am I allowed to do this? And I kind of hold them. And let's get a little bit weird. I can hear people's blood and I can see and I can feel what's going on simply by touching them. And I am focusing and concentrating on their blood. And I get information that way. I close my eyes. And by the time I open my eyes, a lot of people are usually sobbing or crying or in shock. But that is another way to say, I see you. Because sometimes our clients have pain they can't articulate, they don't know what's going on. So for you to be able to help them in that way helps them to feel seen, helps build rapport and trust and confidence in a different way. So another way that I apply this intuitive gift, this intuitive development, even in a session, sometimes things don't make sense to me. My logical mind goes, yeah, I don't know if this person is capable of a regression. Then there's this little whisper in my voice that's not someone I know. And I'm like, oh, are you a deceased relative? Deceased relative wants to take this route. And I'm like, okay, man, sure. And I start saying things that my logical mind would never say. My logical mind wouldn't do that. Danny was my teacher and she was a wonderful teacher and she taught me all the things. But sometimes we skirt a little bit around that because something else is telling us, no, 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 this is what this person needs. So these are also just different ways that we can lead our client by using these, what I'm going to call senses of awareness. Now, for people who are not used to that, and I'm talking gibberish, I'm going to teach you how in a way that I think we can all understand. So, are we all familiar with the lemon test? Where you describe a lemon. I'm going to say some people describe it in such a biased way, and the lemon test has its flaws because if you're spending like minutes upon minutes talking about what it feels like, more likely than not, they're going to be able to feel it. Or if you're talking about the taste of it, more likely they're going to pucker. So, doing the lemon test on yourself and seeing what shows up, but also making sure you describe that lemon in an unbiased way, but see what shows up. For myself, when you describe a lemon, I see the little dimples on the lemon. I see the shape. I see the sticker. I smell it. So for myself, clairvoyance, I trust what I see in my mind. So the lemon test is a good first start. When you start to try to imagine things, what is the first thing that comes to mind? And when you take those gifts, for example, I said, my primary skill is clairvoyance. I see. Focus on strengthening that particular skill. And as you focus on that particular skill, the other ones slowly start to appear over time, which is kind of awkward and kind of strange because all of a sudden you start smelling when people are sick. But focusing first on your primary senses is one of the best first ways to start that intuitive development. And it's very similar when you are teaching yourself this. It's similar to what we tell our clients when we talk about hypnotherapy. Trust your first impression and tell me the first thing that comes to mind. So let's say you're trying to read your client. My best advice is if you don't do this on a regular basis, you do it for practice and you don't tell everybody. So you can write that little note. You don't need to give it to them. You probably shouldn't give it to them. And that's up to you, and that is your discretion. I'm not a big believer in giving people readings, but start with practicing that way is before your client even comes in. What's the first thing that comes to mind? And it may not make sense to you. It's similar to the way we read our clients. Let's say the first thing that comes to mind is, well, I'm thinking about client Bob. When I think about client Bob, red shows up. What does that even mean, red? As hypnotherapists, we know the subconscious mind can speak in symbols, images, and colors. So, what does red mean to you? Red means angry. Okay. So, write down red, write down angry, and see what comes up when client Bob shows up. How accurate was that reading? And trusting your first impression and just trusting that maybe you won't get it right every single time. So, the same way we lead our clients in hypnotherapy is the exact same way that you would lead yourself to practicing intuitive development. There's a caveat to this. When I say trust your first impression, and the first thing that comes up in red and angry is make sure you're not red and angry. Because sometimes what we might be picking up is our own emotion, the things that are going on in our life. Now, many times our clients can mirror the things that are going on in our life, but we want to make sure we are what I call and what I was taught a clear channel. What does clear channel mean? You're not perfect. I'm not saying that you are perfectly healed and you have no problems and you are this guru just floating high in the clouds because you're so light and free. I don't think that's reasonable. And we are all human and we have all of our wants, our needs, our hopes, our fears all tied into us. So when we show up for our clients as a clear channel, what that means is for a moment, just a moment, we set aside all of those wants, those fears, those needs. However, it is, we find a way to set it aside. So sometimes I teach people if you have a lot of thoughts in your mind and everything is just circulating and you're worried about this and that, imagine kind of like a comic book character where they have little thought bubbles. Just take your thoughts and put them in little thought bubbles. Or you can take little, I call them like imaginary post-it notes, and just a little post-it note and just put it to the side, put it to the side. You don't have to heal yourself and be completely empty. That's not what clear channel means. It just means that we have the ability to just temporarily set aside those parts of us that hurt, those parts of us that are not okay. And we allow something greater than ourselves to come into play. I'm not here to preach and tell you what that something greater is, but tapping into something, whether it is tapping into your client's highest and best good. If that's what you want to tap into, fine. If you believe in a God, if you believe in the energy or universe, so it is. If you believe in none of those things, just pretend you're tapping into what is in my client's best interest. What do I need to know about Bob? What's the best way to help Bob? So, practicing those things on our own, starting really small and just saying, what's the first thing that comes to mind? And eventually, your intuitive practice will grow and it'll develop all on its own. So, those are different ways that I have taught people intuitive development and psychic development. If you have a partner, a friend, you can even make it fun and you can practice and you can play games with each other. So, practice reading each other. Practice putting something in a box and then you having to describe what's in the box. Make it fun. So it's easier to start it in these areas that are very low pressure. You're not going to say, hey, client, come on in. I'm going to tell you your wants, your hopes, your dreams, and let's see if we can talk to some dead people. That's not what we're doing. It's just making sure that we are showing up not with just our mind and not just with our heart, but our spirit and all of the gifts that that entails. So that's the first thing that I would love for you to take away is as we show up for our clients, are we showing up with that part of ourself? The next thing that I would love for you guys to take away from this intuitive development is that for many of the people that I have met in our circle of hypnotherapists, we all used to be something else, right? I don't know how many people said, when I grow up, I want to be a hypnotherapist. I don't think I knew that word. Maybe there are some folks, I haven't met them yet. If there are, I would love to meet the person who at 3 years old said they want to be a hypnotherapist. I would love to pick their brain. But most of us, we were something else before we did hypnotherapy. And the next question that I want you to ask yourself is that person in the room too? That person who had those skills, those gifts, those experiences, are they showing up in that room? I'm going to give you an example for myself. So, as a recovering attorney, I thought that hypnotherapy and being an attorney were two completely different things. That girl who's an attorney, she's not allowed in that room. That girl's a little bit angry. She's a little bit sassy. She's a little bit pushy. I don't think she belongs in a room with someone who's crying about mom and dad. So, for a little bit, I left that girl. I'm like, girl, you stay home. Maybe you'll come out later, but you stay home for now. And I practiced what I was taught, which is what we all do is we are educated in hypnotherapy. We learn parts, we learn regressions, we learn neurolinguistic programming, and that's all you apply. But we are also doing a disservice to our clients if we don't bring all of us to the table. So for myself as an attorney, I'm very inquisitive. What I learned from being an attorney for 13 years is the Socratic method, which is actually something I taught at Hypnothoughts Live last year, is the Socratic method and applying it to law and or to hypnotherapy. But the Socratic method is Socrates, once upon a time when he was teaching his pupils, didn't just talk at them. He wasn't a life coach. He didn't just say, here's your problem, here's the answer, thank you, have a nice day. He taught you how to think. He didn't just give you the solution, he gave you the method for finding the solution. And I decided what happens if I bring that into my hypnotherapy practice. And man, did that change the game. How did that change the game? Well, at first, my clients came to me like broken birds, and they wanted me to fix them and wanted me to heal them. And they felt so good that I had healed them, I had fixed them. But when we use the Socratic method and we ask the correct questions, surprise, they found the answer. Yeah, you knew the answer. You knew exactly what was going on because you've seen it time and time again. But you gave them the empowerment to find the answer on their own. And if I had abandoned that part of me, my clients would have never been able to get that experience. So, whatever it is your former background is, we don't need to abandon it. We need to integrate it into what we do so that we can show up as all of ourselves. And the final thing that I would love for everyone to take from this is, does anybody have a VIP super important favorite client list? Anybody? I'm gonna say this. Maybe we do. I do. When I think of favorite clients, I have a few, but I have this very important list of the most important client that I have, who always comes first, that no matter what, I will answer that call. I will, if they have a want, if they have a need, I will answer it. We all must have this list. The name of that person on my list is Lani Gonzales. So also reminding yourself that you are your first client. So when we are doing this intuitive development, this intuitive practice, are we practicing it on ourselves? And this goes to all of the basics that we learned, the felt sense, feeling it in our body. I don't know about you, but there are times where I accidentally pack my schedule and I go home and I don't feel good. And I don't feel good for a while, and I don't understand why I don't feel good. And if I was not my first client, I would not realize, oop, girl, you've been listening to the same story just out of different mouths, and that's your story, and that's poking at your trauma. And if I didn't know that, that would spiral out of control, and I couldn't serve my clients in the best way. So, making sure that we are absolutely our first client and we are practicing those same skills on ourselves, tapping into our felt sense, receiving messages from beyond our logical mind, not just for our clients, but also for ourselves. And I'm going to give you an example of how I'm my first client and how this really, really helped in my career as a hypnotherapist. Once upon a time, Melanie was my business coach, and she told me, Lonnie, I think your calling is working with women and helping them find their profession and their purpose. And I went, no, thank you. I don't like that you said women. I don't like that you said professional women. No, thank you. And my logical mind said, I don't want to do that because number one, most of my clients were men at that time. I'm excluding my clients. Number two is that 50% of the population or so that I'm precluding. And I was afraid that I would lose business if I just said women. Logical mind still says, girl, you can't even service 50% of the population, let alone 20. But kept seeing different messages, different signs from the universe, gathering all of this information. Why does every male client that comes to my office make my tummy hurt? Or how come these clients that are men all of a sudden are sending me love letters that are like really uncomfortable? I'm like, universe, is this you telling me I need to reevaluate what Melanie said? And as my first client, we go, okay, let's look at it. And being VIP client, when I looked at that issue, it wasn't what I told Melanie that, oh, I just don't want to exclude this population. When I do that deep work, that felt sense, where does it feel? What do I feel when I say this is my niche? It hurts in my heart and it hurts in my stomach. If you know your chakras and your energy centers, which is part of intuitive development, that is your heart, that is your feeling space. This is your nurturing space. Your stomach, your solar plexus, your sense of power, your sense of self. And when you talk to those parts and receive messages from those parts, what did mine say? You really want to work with women? Remember when you were a little girl and little girls didn't like you. They didn't want to play with you. You didn't get Barbie, you didn't have Polly Pocket, so you didn't get invited. And remember in high school where you sat alone and you didn't have to eat with lunch with the popular kids. In fact, you ate by yourself because girls didn't like you. So now you think you want to help women? And if I was not my first client, I would have not been able to notice that. So even as we are not just working with our client, but deciding what is the trajectory of our business, what is our next big step, what is our next big breakthrough, I think we need the foundational things. Again, she never told me to do this. I'm just pitching it because I love it. We need the foundations, the CRM, the automations, all of those things that make our life easier. For myself, Melanie was incredibly important because she taught me the foundations of business. But moving beyond that, when you go, what's the next big step in my career? What's the next big move? Give you another example. I just started a workshop. I had my lead magnet workshops that were 30-minute things online, and that's all well and good. But then I decided, let me do my first paid in-person workshop. And as I submitted it out there, logical mind says, now we got to pay to advertise it. I'm afraid that my first thing is going to be a flop and I need to pay to advertise. But every single part of me said no. You don't need to advertise. And then I sat with myself and it's like, no, but no one's going to show up. Nobody's going to like me. No one wants to hear what I have to say. And some part of me, the deep part of me, when we do the intuitive work, when we know that our yes feels like a light bell, and we know that our no feels like a heaviness in our stomach or whatever the case may be, when you develop your intuitive development, whatever your yes or no is, when you hear yes, you listen to yes. And that's another little tidbit for intuitive development. When you get the answer, you gotta go with it. And if you don't, there are consequences. What do I mean by that? Let's pretend you had a friend, and that friend said, Melanie, I'm really hungry. And Melanie goes, too bad, so sad, no food for you. Is Melanie, are they ever gonna talk to you again? It's like, no, I told you information and you didn't honor what I said. So why am I going to keep talking to you? So the more you listen, the louder it gets and the easier it gets. That's why I touch random people. I also started doing this in my career. I go live in various groups and I pick a random person from the audience and I touch them and I tell them their problem before they tell me their problem. That's bold. What if I do that wrong? But that takes a lot of listening. And the more you listen and the more you honor it, the easier it becomes to hear. So, moving back to this workshop where I said, I need to pay for it. And every part said, no, girl, we've got you. I post this workshop. It was an evening, and I wake up and it's full. I didn't need to do anything about it. It just magically filled itself. Moving into this same workshop, I had an agenda. I had like a plan of what I wanted to do. We got to read the room, we got to read the energy. What is it that they need? Not what do I want to deliver? What do they need? And that too is part of our intuitive development. Is someone coming in with big, powerful energy? Is everybody kind of slumped in and kind of sad? Is everyone kind of low? Is everyone kind of feeling a little bit lost? Well, we pivot in that way. And with our intuitive development, even though it wasn't on our agenda, we tap into the thing that tells us what is in our highest interest for our clients. Again, not here to tell you what that thing is, but telling you there is something beyond your logical mind that can help you in your intuitive practice. So that is kind of it in a nutshell. The three biggest takeaways is focusing on what I'm going to call intuitive development. Some people call it psychic development, psychic gifts. I know that's a little bit taboo. I like to call it intuitive development. Another way that I started teaching my clients in my workshop, because I teach psychic development to logical business people who don't want to hear woo woo, synesthesia. So synesthesia is when people smell the color blue, or they can hear different colors, but basically what it is in the mind is that there are some people who naturally have the ability that there's multiple parts of their brain that are being activated when in a normal person it'd just be one or two. So we have more parts of our brain activated. Fun fact, you can train someone to do that, and it's not considered a mental disability because a lot of people with synesthesia are super learners. So it's an advantage. So what I tell people is you're not learning the woo-woo, you're not learning psychic development. I'm just teaching you to access multiple parts of your brain at the same time. So let's say you have a client and you're using the part of your brain that's reading your little hypnobiz facts about this person. What is the other part of the brain? The smell part. the visual part, the hearing part. So that's thing number one, tapping into that intuitive development, showing up with your spirit as well as your mind and your soul and your heart. The other part is bringing all that you are and making sure that no parts are left behind. Maybe you can leave bad, like the bad parts, like the angry lawyer part, that probably doesn't need to go anywhere. She can hang out, she can retire, but the inquisitive, logical part that can help my clients, make sure it's there. And also, the most important part is your VIP client and making you sure you serve that VIP yourself first so that you can expand your practice, lead it and guide it in the way that is in our best interest. And one of my favorite quotes, this is something someone told me, is those who need you will find you. Oh, full disclosure, I'll tell you who told me this. Before I became a hypnotherapist officially, I was at a random fair and the psychic was there. And my friends were like, hey, let's sit down. And I told this psychic lady, I was like, yeah, I'm going to start this hypnotherapy practice and everyone's going to be so excited and I'm going to help so many people. And she goes, mm, those who need you will find you. And that really stuck with me and evolved. Those who need you will find you, but you must show up as all of you in order for them to see you. So I hope that was helpful to everybody. If you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them, whether it's about anything I talked about or any other topics related to intuitive development. I'm happy to answer to the best of my ability.
Awesome. And just hop on out. If you want to raise your hand, you can, or you can just come off of mute and ask Lani anything you'd like to say. I would just like to say, I promise you, I did not tell Lani that I think your clients are women. And we did a process where she told me who her favorite clients were. And I was like, well, what do you think? This seems to be the avatar. Anyway, awesome.
Yes.
Go ahead, Danny.
Oh, I don't think I was first in line. I think Matt was first in line.
Oh,
Okay.
well, thanks. Lani, I was curious, and if you said so, I missed it, but did this intuition come into play with you when you're a lawyer? And is there do you have any stories or any examples of that?
Sure. So I think, I'll be honest, it was the trauma. That's, like when you're a kid, they call it being just hyper vigilant, right? If you are in a setting that is unsafe, unsure as a child, you become hyper vigilant. So I'm going to say one component of that is this is an expanded version of hyper vigilance. It's using hyper vigilance to your advantage. So you can think of it that way. I was probably inclined to these things. For example, being abused as a child, it was easy to leave my body. That was the safest place to go. I didn't realize other people didn't leave their body. And, everyone kind of assumes everyone's like them. So I'm like, wait, like if you're grounded or you're locked in a dark closet, you don't just leave your body and go play with your toys. So I think it was a set of circumstances growing up, and that is kind of how I coped. And I stuck with it because I didn't realize that that was abnormal. So it's always been there and it's always been in the closet poking at me, but was never really truly acknowledged until I did ayahuasca. But I do recognize that as a lawyer, for example, we pick juries and you can win and lose a case based on how well you pick a jury. And most people, it takes them a day to pick a jury. I can pick a jury in an hour and I can do it in the most affordable amount of time. So some lawyers, they're like, okay, let's see these people and let's run really expensive, very fast background checks on people. It's expensive because it's fast and it's thorough. And I don't do that. I go, that guy right there, he smells. And I would say it and I didn't know it. So watch how you speak and also watch how your clients speak because this will help you lead the session. So, for example, I just said something, it smells funny, or I don't like that situation, it smells funny. You better believe when you're describing things to your client in a hypnotic state, you better be describing things that smell. Or if your client is very visual and they speak in a way where if they have analogies Or if they already speak in a way that's very descriptive, I'm willing to bet that that person is very visual. So leaning towards that, I know that didn't answer your question. I think it just led into another direction.
No,
But
it
yeah,
totally did.
but even like,
Signatures and
yeah, when your client talks and being very aware, I'm not only listening to my clients based on what they're telling me the problem is, maybe this is a lawyer thing. I'm looking at how they tell me. So God, it just didn't feel good inside. And like when they said this thing to me, it was like I was hit in the gut. Oh, they're feelers. You better believe, you better be tapping into the body. So when we know our own intuitive gifts and how to identify them, it becomes easier to identify in our client so that we can lead them in the best way. So yeah, as a lawyer, I would say that person, juror number 8, he smells funny, or that person right there, there's something about him. And eventually I got my clients to trust it, and man, was I good. So it definitely showed up as a lawyer, but it wasn't truly trusted or recognized until I moved beyond that.
thank you.
Yeah.
So,
Lani? I'm sorry. Go.
hello. I love you. You're
Hello.
fabulous.
Oh,
And
thank you.
I'm so excited for you and proud of all that you're bringing to the field through this vein of service that you're talking about here. And I guess I'm at a little bit of advantage because I think I know the answer to this question because I've watched you and I've seen you do this. But can you, without giving away your secret formula that people could be coached to develop, how do
Yeah.
you discern from your stuff and other people's stuff?
Ooh, I'm gonna say everybody is different. And I don't know if we went into this because she's my teacher. I don't know if we talked about this in school, but there is a way of preparing ourselves and a way of closing, is how I'm going to describe it. So before I start my day, I figure out what my stuff is. Because sometimes, how do you know if it's their stuff or my stuff? Sometimes it's both of our stuff when we're sharing stuff. So, tapping in at the beginning of my day to figure out what my stuff is. I'll give you an example. A lot of my stuff is in my tummy these days, is that feeling in my solar plexus, this feeling of needing to root also, feeling what my energy is. I visualize my energy. It feels like fire. It feels hot. It has a color. It's gold. So I become very intimately familiar with my own energy in that way because I hang out with it every day. I talk to it every day. And when I go and I see my clients, and I don't do this for all my clients, I'll be honest, sometimes I'm drained. I don't want to touch anybody. If I see clients, too many clients, I touch nobody. But once I tap into my clients and I see what's theirs, it sounds differently. It's not my voice. It's not the voices that normally talk to me. That sounds creepy. You can scratch that out, pretend I didn't say that, but it just sounds and it doesn't feel like me. So I think the answer to your question is, and I intimately know myself and what it sounds like and feels like. And then I can discern the difference between my energy and their energy. And I think that's one of the biggest things. You didn't ask this question, but I'm going to just say this because it's something that needs to be said. The thing I'm talking about tapping into energy, requires two things that I didn't say, so forgive me: consent and boundaries. So, consent's a dicey one. I presume that if you are my client, there is an implied consent. This is recorded, and I'm sure someone's gonna like call me out on this, but it's fine. It does require consent. There are some people that are incredibly difficult to read. There are some people who are easy to read. So there is a certain level of consent. I don't disclose everything I receive because some people know what I do and they come to me because they're anxious and they want an answer as opposed to sitting with the anxiety and that uncertainty. That is the gift that they have, is to sit with that. And I'm not going to deprive them of that by telling them the answer. So there is consent, there is restraint. We don't need to say everything. asking good questions. If you smell that someone is sick, I'm not going to tell you that you have cancer. I'm going to ask you about your self-care. I'm going to ask you how much time you spend really connecting with yourself. If you do, what feels off? What feels better? What haven't you done for yourself? Well, I haven't gone to the doctor in a while. Do you think that's a good idea? Do you think that's something that would be worth it? I don't tell anybody that they're sick. The other thing is boundaries. That's a big one that I didn't talk about. I'm going to be honest and say sometimes I struggle with this. I'll give you an example. I had a client. I wish I could make this up, and I am not. She called me and said that she had sleep issues. I can't remember what it's called, but instead of sleepwalking, she performed sexual acts in her sleep. And she came to me because that is something she wanted to deal with. Um, that evening, it felt very dark and heavy in my body. It felt very dark and heavy in my room. And I saw almost like this vision of blinds and someone peeking and saying she's hiding something. Then I saw someone who died and someone screaming. And I'm like, what on earth is this? I didn't kill anybody. I know it's not mine because I didn't kill anybody. I'm not hiding anybody in a closet. I have no idea what this is. And those are not the flavor of my dreams. So I'm very aware of what goes on here. So I'm like, that's not the flavor of dreams I have. So the next day I see this woman. And we all have these clients. Someone told me once in a hypnotherapy conference, everybody lies, not intentionally, but boy, do they. And she finally comes in and she has trouble sleeping. And sleep is not about sleep. There's things beyond that. And then she discloses to me, well, I killed my ex-boyfriend and it was in self-defense. And something in my body went, uh-uh, uh-uh. And it was just this big shake. And I knew, and maybe that was my higher self's way of telling me that something was in the closet, that no matter what she told me, the full story was never going to come out. But she eventually did tell me, yeah, I killed my last ex-boyfriend in self-defense, and that's why she's really here, is because she feels a lot of shame and a lot of guilt. So that's a story of how I knew it wasn't mine. I'm like, that's not my flavor of dream. And that's not how myself feels. But boundaries, because did I need to experience that while I'm going to sleep? No, I did not. So while we tap into our clients, their energy is not welcome in our home. Their energy is not welcome in our space, in our body. And curiosity gets the best of me sometimes, and I entertain it without knowing I entertain it. So setting very clear boundaries, like your office hours. I receive information from 10 to 4 o'clock, the end. Or you don't get to come to my house, just like the clients don't, well, my clients don't come to my house. So your energy doesn't get to go into my house either. So making sure that when you start entertaining information, you also have very clear boundaries.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Yes.
I'm not a plant in this, just so you know. Because I happen to love Lani and I come here for these. Um, if you could see my notes that I'm taking, you would have seen that my absolute next question to you that you intuitively knew to answer was, how do you know when to follow the content and when not to follow the content? And what do you do to discern that? And you said, check in with your number one client first and have boundaries. And, that was a beautiful answer. And I think it really speaks to you walking the walk of what you're talking about and what is possible when rapport is established between people, because we have a rapport. We haven't talked in a while, but we have
Mhm.
rapport, and that
Yeah.
creates a sense of safety. So it's like you reached right across through the computer, grabbed the space that I was in enough to know that was going to be my next question. So you wouldn't believe it if I could share my screen and show you, but it does say that. So thank you for
Um,
answering both of those things. I
I love
appreciate that
that.
guidance.
Thank you. I don't know if there's other questions, but one of the things I want to add, again, Melanie didn't tell me to say these things and promote these things, but when I worked with her, and she was my business coach, she showed me, I'm going to tell people without telling people, how to do chat GPT prompts so that it gives me specific content, topics, ideas, pain points to work with my clients. I'm gonna be honest, I was lazy at first and I would just take what that spat out at me and I'm like, okay, we're just gonna do a generic version of that. And you watch your content, right? You should always look at the numbers because numbers don't lie. What works, what doesn't. And what she gave me was better than I was doing before. But then I got curious and I went, let's take this and let's meditate on it. What happens when I meditate on it? And like, here is the message that Chat GPT through that, that prompt gave me. And this is what it says that my clients will like. But I tap and go, what do they need to hear? Not what they want to, what they would like, not what would make them sell. What do they need to hear to feel actually seen? And then when I started producing content that answered that question, those numbers changed. So this is not just about how we guide our clients. This is not just about how we establish rapport. This is something that can help you in every facet of your business.
Sounds interesting. I want to meet you. Are you going to be in Vegas in this year?
I am, but there's so many people. I hope I can see you. I'm also going to be in Seattle and I'm going to be at in April, the Heartland Hypnosis Conference. So I know those are smaller and easier to find people, but I'll be in Vegas for sure.
Okay. Well, I'll wave at you, see if you want to come meet me.
Yeah, and perhaps we can actually create a Hypnosis Education Association meetup so that we can actually network in person,
idea.
connecting, because hypnothoughts can be crazy.
Yes.
True. So we find a place to quietly sit down and maybe share some snacks or something.
Is that the one that's
Amazing
in
conference.
is that the one in July?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I am speaking at Hypnothoughts Live. I can't tell you when, the schedule's out, but I don't recall when. I am speaking about the scientific basis for astral travel. So we are going to talk about entropy. We're going to talk about metaphysics and what we know and the current state of physics today and how it actually supports that astral travel is possible. So we're going to talk about a woo-woo topic from a very scientific perspective. So I will be at Hypnothoughts Live talking about that.
Nice.
Vicky,
I,
go ahead.
I just
Vicky.
want to say that this is so perfect because I literally, when I clicked on the button to say I was coming, it was like, I really need to go into the woo-woo side because I studied like Huna for 8 years in Hawaii and New Zealand. And like, but then when I came into the hypnosis world, that was kind of tamped down, like, oh no, that's woo-woo stuff. And so when you at the beginning said this might be a little woo-woo, I'm like, yes. And like different things that you talked about were things that have been going through my head this week. My husband and I just had a conversation about astral projection and like yesterday. So thank you for all of this. This is awesome.
You're welcome. I hope that you apply that because man, oh man, does that help service our clients in a way we don't understand?
Lani, I've been in not in empathy, but an empath for many years. And I had to learn just to sit and go, okay, is this mine? You know, and we had one of those the other day. I was working on the computer and my husband was walking from the kitchen to the living room and I went, oh my God, Jim, I feel lost, lonely, and alone and unloved. And I'm like, and I stopped what I was doing. I walked over, I put my head on my chest, on his chest, because that's where I'm never lonely and unloved, my head on my husband's chest.
Oh, that's nice.
And I didn't know whose it was. Like it wasn't mine, was all I knew. The next day I got a call from a friend whose husband went into rehab and she's from Ukraine, been in the United States, and he is like the only connection to this world. Like, so there she is, feeling lost and unloved and alone. Fortunately, she picked up the phone and called me. But I'm like, phew, like that, because that was huge. Like being able to walk to my husband and just hug him and go, this isn't mine, but it's a feeling. So all of my life, I've got hit with that kind of stuff. So even your talking about me being the VIP was huge. Like, thank you, Lani. This was wonderful.
Oh, I'm happy to help. Another resource that I found very helpful, because not one thing works for everybody. There's a book called, I think it's called, please, I'm pretty sure it's right, The Highly Sensitive Person. And while that book sounds offensive in its name, it talks about people who are highly sensitive, people who are empaths, what to watch for, what to look for, and many different ways, for lack of a better term, to clean yourself at the end of the day or when you're interacting. This situation was unique because it's somebody that, like, that called you. There's another little trick. Sorry, that's my dog. I'm at home right now. I remember, I think Danny said this before, is like sometimes your clients mumble. I don't know if you do virtual sessions. Man, oh man, do they like to mumble. And setting the intention when you are, kind of bringing them under is, and you're going to speak clearly and audibly so that everyone can hear you. If they speak a foreign language, setting that tone, the intention that they're going to speak in English. When you do intuitive growth or intuitive development, it's the same concept of, you can set as many boundaries and intentions as you want. I only want information I can share is a perfectly acceptable boundary. I only want information that is helpful for this person. Or when I receive information that's not for me, please give me some sign that it's not mine. So I kind of do a different way of, I just know what mine looks like, but you can already set the intention of, I am open to receive, but give me a clear signal, whether mine is green and theirs is red, whether mine is male and this is, they are female, but you can set that intention just the way you would with the client about how they speak and what language they speak in. So that's a way that you can do that. But check out the book Highly Sensitive Person, because that goes into great detail about how to protect. When you get good at protecting, the next step is project. Protect is just keeping out the stuff, almost like you're like in a little bubble. Projecting is, I take my own energy, which I described before. It's red, it's gold, it's fire, it's hot, and I push out. And I start every day that way. I push out so that when something touches, it touches my boundary, it touches my energy. You don't touch here. No one gets to touch here. So that, I think, took me a little bit of practice, but if you're including it into your practice, I want you to know that it is safe to do that. And just with people and clients, you can set whatever boundaries your heart desires to make sure that it doesn't drain you.
Lani, can I ask a question? Do you verbalize that, or do you internalize that in the sense of out there in the spiritual world, in the sense of the higher conscious? Are you verbalizing it out there, or are you actually physically saying it?
I'll be honest, both. I verbalize it when I'm scared. That's a weird thing to say. I internalize much of it, but let's say that there's something, and this has happened before, that makes me feel a little bit scared. I say to myself, I release all of negativity and fear. Only love can enter here. I say it out loud just so y'all can hear me, spirits or whoever's out there, just so I'm aware that you're aware. I do verbalize that. And then if it's still there, I go, okay, I don't understand what this is, but I know that it is some form of love and something that is trying to help. So I verbalize that. Um, when I tap in a big way, and I don't know if we have time to get into that, so I'm probably not going to get into some clients. You kind of just dabble. Some I'm like, oh, I gotta dive deep in there. I say this and I almost mumble it because they don't need to hear my woo woo. I say, for the good of all and to the harm of none, because I'm tapping into something big and I'm asking for something big to help me. So I want to use that respectfully and humbly. So I kind of mumble that to myself, for the good of all and to the harm of none. So some of it is outward. I don't think it's necessary, but much of it is internal.
Thanks so much for that. That's great. I'm doing the right thing there.
Yeah, I love this. Thank you so much. I think it was probably my second year in, and I found that there was I got great results with so many of my clients, and then there were just some that my own intuitive gifts that I developed from trauma as a youth weren't really, like, I wasn't able to see or feel or know what to help them with. So I actually took an intuitive life coaching course, like a whole thing in it. And then I believe it's, and I know Peter would have been able to tell me in a minute, but I believe it's Roxanne Louise. Does that name sound familiar to other people? I was just about to look into my email to find her. She teaches dowsing, and she's really powerful. I also learned some things from her. It's just been really, really useful to trust that. And I will also say, you could do, there's some things that you can do just with Qigong, with energy, to create that boundary every morning. And I often do it in between clients. I'll do a bit of shaking off, or I'll put the boundary up. I'm not a spongy empath at all. I can read, but I'm not a spongy empath. But every once in a while, I still got to shake it off. And I think the reason I'm not a spongy empath, I have my own theories, but it's because when I was a kid, if I didn't put that shield of protection up around me, I probably wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't be. So if I took in all the energy that was around me. So this has been awesome. Oh, and I have one other thing I just wanted to say. I love that, the VIP client.
Yeah.
What I developed for me, the VIP client, was I use journaling prompts. Like I call one of them, I call like eating shadows for breakfast. And I give these to my clients too. But like if I'm feeling some kind of something and I'm off and I want to know, I have journaling prompts, because sometimes it's just all the feels, right? So I actually run through those things and identify where it is, where it came from, and how I can, walk into that day still empowering other people, even though I've got some stuff, whatever's going on that day. So I really appreciate all of the things that you said. And I'd love to know more about, at some point, how you're teaching intuition classes to corporate without it being woo. Well, we'd love to hear about that another day.
Yeah.
Please. That sounds great.
Awesome. Do we have any other questions before we wrap tonight? It is 1:11:11 according to my my recording.
I wanted to say, Lani, I really enjoyed your presentation. I'm looking, I hope I get to see you at Heartland. I don't know if we're speaking at the same time. As a yoga teacher, we use the language of your body's your best teacher, and at least the way I teach it tends to be, kind of permissive, come out when you're ready and that type of thing. And that is I think the body's a subconscious mind, but but that is, if that doesn't teach, intuition, even to like to someone who just doesn't, is not wooey whatsoever, if they listen to their body, then at the minimum, it's less of a chance they're going to get injured. Rather than so many people just want to ignore and just keep pushing,
Yeah.
But that part of nurturing it to let it know you're listening really resonated with me. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
All right, you amazing people. We're gonna thank you one more time, Lani. Give her a big thank you. And if you are watching on the replay, first of all, everybody who's here, you can share from the group to public on Facebook, and it shares Hypnosis Education Association. And so if you're watching on the replay, please do drop your love for Lani. And if you've got any questions for her, I know she's going to come back and answer them.
Absolutely.
Just a couple of quick things to share with you. I got to find the magical PDF that Sean created for me. Here we go. All right. So we're looking for other amazing humans who'd like to share their wisdom and expertise with us, or even just your something you find fascinating. You don't have to be a speaker. You don't have to be a teacher or a trainer of hypnosis. But we'd love to hear from you. We have these Hypno Connects, and then we have an annual conference, and we are prepping for the Hypno Biz Success Summit, which I'm super excited about. That's my thing. So please do put in your application. You can just go to hypnosiseducationassociation.com, and right on the front page, you'll see it says call for presenter. And volunteers. So this is a not-for-profit organization, which basically means that me and my husband Sean, with the help of my VAs, are doing almost everything. We do have a couple of wonderful volunteers that we really appreciate, but we're looking for more. So first of all, I'll just say again, every share, every time you invite somebody to HypnoConnect and grow our reach, that is a help. But if you would be interested in promoting the hypnosis, making hypnosis better understood and more utilized by the general public, then we need you. And our next HypnoConnect will be Frances O'Brien. She'll be talking about how to tap into the subconscious mind to create lasting changes. So we look forward to meeting Frances next time, and that's in April. And I believe the last call to action is join the Hypnosis Education Association today. I'm going to stop sharing this screen. I'm going to open up another and just give you a little insight. Hypnosis Education Association, this organization that I can't believe it's been, oh my gosh, how long we've been doing this. All right, so we, labor of love right here, Hypnosis Education Association. Your benefits are you'll come to our conferences at discount. You get to hang out with other amazing hypnotists, which what are better places there to be. And you are listed on our site and for where you live. So this gives you an extra SEO boost to get people to your business. Looks like we got a lot of reach in Florida, doesn't it? And where is my Lani?
Am I not there? Oh my
You're
gosh.
not there, so that means only one thing.
Oh my gosh. Shame on me.
And I will also say, if you are an instructor, you get yourself listed on our instructors page. So again, promoting hypnosis education, if you've got something to teach, upcoming classes, etc., our members get to be listed here at no additional charge beyond your membership. So with that,
How much is the membership? Sorry.
Right this moment, it's $55 a year.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Exactly. Come on
and
in
do
here.
Do you want to see all my 42 certificates?
Right. Here you go. Boom. So that's your link to join the HEA and get yourself listed as a member. Come and join us. Our upcoming HypnoBiz Success Summit will also be a discount for you. So when you see that listed, you'll know you get to come at a discount. All right. Well, brilliant. Thank you again, Lani. Blessings to all of you. It's been wonderful to see all your smiling faces.
Thanks, Melanie.
All right, take care, everybody. Be well. Peace.
Thank you for joining us on HEA's HypnoConnect, the podcast by the Hypnosis Education Association, a not-for-profit organization serving the hypnosis community since 1998. Proudly sponsored by HypnoBiz in a Box, the all-in-one platform for building a thriving hypnosis practice without burnout. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow, leave a review, and share it with a fellow hypnotist. Ready to grow with a supportive educational community? Join the HEA today and help us spread the word about the nature, uses, and benefits of hypnosis. Visit us at hypnosiseducationassociation.com. And if you're looking to get started, streamline, or scale your hypnosis business, head on over to hypnobizinabox.com, where you'll attract steady clients, generate reliable income, and be supported by a community of like-minded hypnosis professionals. Until next time, find a hypnobuddy, stay inspired, and stay connected to HEA's HypnoConnect.